Okay, the next thing I'd like to do today is to review the third canon and kind of summarize all the things that we've learned this year, because we finally learned all the different pieces. And I also want to help you see how they fit together, okay? The third canon is called elocution, and you know that it answers the problem every writer faces of how to say things well, so that they're effective, so they're winsome, so they're compelling. It has a lot to do with our word choices and things that we put in our paper to kind of decorate it. So we had 3 categories this year in elocution: editing, tropes, and schemes. And you guys know what editing is. It's when you look for things and you change them so that they'll be better. And one of the main things you should look for when you're editing, you should already know to look for capitalization, punctuation, spelling, verb agreement. Those things should be internalized. And if they're not, that's okay, but keep working at that. I'm implying that you already know that stuff. This stuff is a little bit more new. The first thing you look at is verbs. We are looking for strong, active, precise verbs. If we don't see them, what we're seeing instead is we do not want vague, passive, or overused verbs. These we do not want. So if we look through and see those, we cross them out and we change them to be like this. Another major editing issue that you learned this year was nominalization. How to find nominalization and change it. What is nominalization? It's when, let me make sure I say this right. Where did it go? Oh, this is when a noun would be better, would be more effective, would read better or be more persuasive. A noun would be better as a verb, okay? And we learned a lot of different complicated ways to identify this, and I'm going to try to sum it up for you as best I can. You can often find this kind of noun later in a sentence after there is or it was. These are just red flags. Look for a nominalization. There might be one, you might decide not to change it, but this is your hot tip to look, okay? The other places that you should look for nominalizations are subjects, direct objects, and objects of the preposition. Nouns might be hiding in these places in a sentence that should be verbed, and they would make the sentence better. Anytime you find this, an important part of nominalization is it means you have to rewrite the sentence, and it usually means you have to clarify the subject. Okay? And another part of editing is you identify these nominalizations, but you may decide not to change it. You might decide to leave it, and that's part of the editing process too. But for now, you really need to work on, can I find these, and do I know what to do, and can I make my sentences better? This is hard work. Sometimes people don't care enough to make it the very best, but a hardworking person will wrestle at this level of editing, especially by the time they're in high school. So it's good for you to know about that. Okay, now I got to make some more room. That's editing. Next come tropes. A trope is an image, and you can create that image with words or phrases or however you want. And where are we here? It's an image used in a different way. And it's for artistic effect. And it also increases people's understanding, and it increases their memory. Tropes are very powerful images in our mind. So a trope is an image that's used in a different way for artistic effect. These are also another way to describe a trope is a figure of speech. There are lots of tropes. This year we only learned 2. We learned about the metaphor, and we learned about the simile. And you know that a metaphor compares 2 different things in a striking way, right? Both of them do this. They compare two different kinds of things, that's important, in a striking way. And what's the main difference between a metaphor and a simile? Well, a metaphor implies, it doesn't come right out, well, no. Yeah, it doesn't, it implies a direct relationship with a verb such as is. It implies the relationship between these two different things. It usually communicates the idea of is, or even uses the actual word is. Whereas a simile comes right out and tells you it's comparing something by using the words like, as, or seems. Okay? So the simile uses like, as, or seems. It kind of cues you that it's making a comparison. The metaphor just goes ahead and does it. And so those are the tropes that we've learned this year. Your papers should include, there should be a metaphor in every paper that you write, and there should be a simile in every paper that you write. These are powerful. If you can learn to think in metaphors, you can really affect pretty great change in your world, I believe. So that's a great skill. Next we have schemes. You know, we started out the year heavy on this, and then we sort of ended up with it, but I don't feel like we have it down real solid. So if someone asked you what a scheme was, what would you say to them? An evil plan? Maybe not. A scheme is a plan, though. It's a plan or way of organizing information to bring attention to key points. So if you have something that you want to kind of stand out or you want to bring attention to it, one of the things you can use is a scheme. It's a deliberate plan or way of organizing information. And so parallelism, antithesis, alliteration, and assonance are all ways and plans of organizing information. How do you organize information by using alliteration? Well, you pick words that all start with the same sound, or all have the same sound, all end with the same sound, or all have the same sound in the middle of them. So it might be a way of organizing information to bring attention to key points. I might say click, clack, whack, smack, right? I use this sound on purpose because it brings attention to clicking and clacking. It sounds right. It brings attention to that. Alliteration can do that, or it can just be fun, like I frequently have fun dancing. It just sounds better, okay? It's a plan or a way of making it sound nice. And assonance is the same thing. It's a plan or way of organizing information, and the way you do that is by making the vowel sounds the same, which does result in a rhyme, especially if they're close together or if every sentence ends that way in poetry. But you can have assonance in your writing. If you remember when I wrote about going dancing, I said that the dance was not, did not lead to romance, right? And so that was just stuck in the middle. It wasn't overdone, but it brought attention to the point that usually when you go on a dance, you expect it to be fairly romantic. And so I highlighted that. So this one, you get that alliteration is consonants, and then assonants are repeated vowel sounds. And that's the plan. You just repeat them, right? You usually do it 3 times if you want it to seem deliberate. And you usually use it sparingly in your writing. Unless you're writing poetry, and then you use it as much as you can. But I want to review these last 2 schemes. The scheme of parallelism and the scheme of antithesis. And the way I want to do that is by showing you some examples. And I think I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to start with antithesis, and then I'm going to do parallelism. So, okay, so I want to just give you an example of antithesis. If you remember, an antithesis is a scheme, which means it's a plan or a way of organizing information to bring attention to it. So let's say you're writing a paragraph about Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And you have a paragraph about racial injustice and how it influenced the Logan's decisions. And for your supporting points, you decided to talk about the bus incident. You decided to talk about the trip to town when Cassie had to apologize to that nasty girl. And you decided to include Pa's decision to set his crops on fire when the lynch mobs came for TJ, okay? There's something really different about this one. You compared and you contrasted them, and you saw that this one was a little different. And it was special and good and unique, and you want to highlight that. So what you might say was, Big Ma was motivated by fear to make Cassie apologize in town. But Mr. Logan was motivated by strength to burn his own crops. So do you see what you did? You organized it. It's parallel. You used parallelism to organize your ideas, and you showed contrast. And that choice to show contrast in an organized way highlighted how amazing Mr. Logan was to make that sacrifice. That's what antithesis can do for you. So as you're writing your essays, it's okay to, I mean, for now, just anything you see that could be antithetical, go ahead and try it. But I want you to understand that what you're aiming for is, how can I make this stand out? Ooh, and then you make it work for you. As we continue our review of elocution, we've made it down to schemes. And I want to talk about parallelism, because we've mostly been just doing parallelism to make sure our proofs are parallel. And we've been satisfied with that. But parallelism is a lovely scheme that you can use and should use in your writing all the time. It's a plan or a way of organizing information to bring attention to key points. So I'm going to show you some examples of things that are not parallel at the level of the sentence. It might be a phrase, it might be a word or part of speech, it might be a verb, something like that, where it's not parallel. And then I'm going to have you stop the video and take 3 minutes to see if you can correct these things so that they are parallel. Okay, let me read them to you. The first one is this. Let me stand over here. I don't know how the camera's set up. Here's a sentence. Include antithesis, alliteration, and some words with similar vowel sounds. Do parallelism too. Try to make that into one parallel sentence. The next one is this. The 3 problems every writer faces are what to say, how to say it, and arranging ideas in the best order. And my final example is this. She was tripping and fell downstairs. These sentences are not parallel. Take 3 minutes and see if you can make them parallel. Okay, let's see what you got. Hopefully it's the same as what I got. Include antithesis, alliteration, assonance, and parallelism in your writing. That's how I would make this one. Cross this out. I just put in the word assonance. I'd add the word and, parallelism, in your writing. This is a lot easier to remember, and it's a lot easier to understand. Okay, the 3 problems every writer faces are what to say, how to say it, and how to best arrange ideas. You might have had something different. How to arrange ideas in the best order, but something along these lines where you get a something to verb, okay, to make it parallel. And finally, she was tripping and fell downstairs. There's 2 ways you can fix that. You could say, she was tripping and falling down the stairs. Or you could say, she tripped and fell down the stairs. So you can have tripping and falling, or tripped and fell. But they have to be parallel. Verbs have to be parallel to each other. This is grammatically incorrect. So this and this, these are considered like decorations. These are schemes. These are plans or ways of organizing your information to bring attention to key points. So you really should have parallelism at least one other time in your essay, in addition to your main proofs should be parallel with each other. Because that's more our test of logic and weight. whereas this is more of a decoration. This is more part of elocution and something that makes our writing cool. Okay, and then did I already do antithesis? Ho, ho, ho. We're done. You guys have learned a lot about elocution this year, and a lot of it's brand new stuff that you haven't really considered before. So as you work on your last essay, I'm excited to see these elements included.